recently I was doing a coaching call with one of my students because she was having a really hard time taking her audience and converting that into sales for her courses. Even though she had a super engaged audience, a pretty large audience, she was really struggling to make enough sales to even make it make sense for her to keep her business going. And so I wanted to talk with her and see what are some things and shifts that we could make in her sales, her content, the way that she's pitching to really help her to actually make this a legit business, basically, right? And so I really like getting on that call with her was so invigorating for me and really fired me up. And so I really wanted to bring it into a conversation inside of a YouTube video. So if you stick with me through this whole video, I am essentially going to walk you through, like when someone comes to me and says, how do I position myself, market myself, set things up to make money from courses and digital products? Like, what are the steps I need to take in order to make that happen? So maybe you already have a course or digital product, you have an audience, whether it's big or small, you have ideally an email list that you've started. What do I do from here? What are the things that I need to take, accomplish, move towards in order to make consistent sales? So that's what we're going to be really digging into today. I'm going to lay out so much for you. I don't even know how long this video is going to be, but I have so many notes on the things I want to go over. And essentially, like what I sat there explained to her for over an hour, and hopefully not spend over an hour here, but spend a pretty good chunk of time breaking all of this down for you. So if you stick around, you're going to get so much out of this. And it's probably going to also help you as you jump into some of my other YouTube videos that are more specific topics, like understanding how everything fits into the bigger picture here when you're growing this type of business built on courses, built on digital products, and like how it all fits together. So the first thing that I really want to address here and really dive into, because this matters so much, and I feel like we don't talk about this enough, but it's something that is incredibly important as you do the more tangible items that we're going to talk through. Like, you have to have a good mindset around actually selling, okay? You have to feel like you have to know your products and courses are the best dang thing for the person that you're selling to. That looking at selling as like an invitation into something more with you, it's not that you're just being salesy. It's that you are offering them something that can truly transform. And your free content, even if you put out so much free content, where the true transformation is going to happen is when someone decides to pay you money for something that you're giving them in return, because often it's going to be your best work. You're going to have the most thought, intentionality. It's going to be, and this is like what I teach when I'm talking about courses and digital products, it's going to have a variety of ways they can consume it, whether that's video, audio, workbooks, templates, guides, right? We're really giving them a breadth of information, but like making it actionable for them is so much more than you could ever do in like a free 10-minute video or a free Instagram post, right? And so I like to think about it that way, as like having this really great mindset around my business, my sales, of like, I'm not being salesy. Like, people might call me salesy, might say I pitch, but I know at the end of the day, I was put on this earth to impact certain people. I'm not going to make that impact if I'm holding back from being too because I'm afraid of being too salesy. I'm going to make that impact by being bold, by sharing my offers, sharing how I can actually serve them and help them in a deeper capacity and get them the results that they actually want. And it's also from the other end, when someone puts money down, they are a lot more serious about actually taking action than if they just watch something for free and it sounds like a good idea and then they never actually do it. So there's also that aspect as well. And that starts with us being bold in how we are selling. And you can do it in a way that doesn't give you the ick, that doesn't feel salesy, but that feels so genuine, real, like an invitation, right? An invitation into something more. And they can say no. Like, we don't have to use sales tactics that feel gross, that feel like we're pressuring them. But instead, we're being clear about what it is that they are buying into, and we are inviting them into something more where we can serve them so incredibly well. And so, with this mindset, it's really believing that it is not selfish to pitch your products, that you know that those products, those courses, those whatever it is that you sell, is where that deeper transformation happens. And if you're like me, like I was saying, like I'm a believer, I follow Jesus. And so I truly believe that like my business is a ministry in so many ways of like the people that are brought to me in my business. God brought them to me for a reason. Like I was made and created to help them. And by diminishing or being afraid of being too pitchy or salesy, or just not being bold and stepping into like what God is calling me, I'm holding back from like the calling that I have. And so if I'm gonna be like timid and afraid to put myself out there, ultimately I'm not doing what I believe that God has called me to do. So a couple of things that come up a lot when we talk about not feeling salesy. So the way that I think about it in my mind is free content, like creating freebies, free downloads, or creating free content on Instagram, free content on YouTube, wherever you create free content. That's to build trust, to grow your audience, to connect with people, right? And that's really where, like the way social media and content marketing works, that's where you are essentially building that trust and giving value and leading with value. So even if someone never pays me a dime, I know there is so much value that they will get from following my content, from following the education that I offer. My students get such amazing results, even if they decide not to pay me. And that's also part of the like, I want to show up as someone who freely gives, who has an open hand and gives, even when I'm not being paid for it all of the time. And I'm able to still do that, even in conjunction with being bold about pitching my offers, because I'm leading with free value so much in my content that when I do go to pitch, I have so much confidence and like, I've really showed up. And there's no pressure. If someone doesn't want to pay me right now, that's fine. But I'm giving that invitation to those who are seeking that and who want that. And so that mindset around like your organic content, your free content, your public content is like you are genuinely showing up with value and giving where it doesn't feel salesy, right? But part of that giving aspect is building trust. And also this is where and why I teach always be building your email list. I'm a huge fan, huge advocate of start your emails from day one. It doesn't have to be the main focus. Like, yes, focusing on one platform to grow is going to grow you faster, but at least have that email list going, even if you send one newsletter a month to start. Like, it is pure gold in your business for the long run. And having a business where, in a platform where you've built all of your people who follow you on one place, that's never going to go away. And so that's why I teach like so much with Instagram growth, YouTube growth, whatever it is, to always be pointing people to your email list. And you do that by offering more free things or even low ticket things. So like it could be to a low ticket digital product, like under $100. It can be for free downloads, like lead magnets, webinars, things like that. And again, just genuinely saying, hey, I have this thing. It's totally free. Do you want it? Yes or no? Get some on your email list. And then email is where we're really pitching offers. And we're going to go deeper into this later, but email is really where like people are expecting you to sell more there. And they're your hottest leads of people. And it's where you can launch things to, have them go into funnels, things like that, okay? That also helps a lot with not feeling salesy because you know, like email marketing can be so direct, so bold, and it converts really well. Versus Instagram, you start to sell and you might feel like you're being more salesy and it's more like, oh, like I don't know, and it doesn't resonate, it doesn't convert. And I've just found overall, like in helping so many of my students, that getting people on your email list and then selling there is going to end in more sales than just trying to sell directly from social media. There are nuances, but that's for the most part what I've seen in doing this for like 5 years now, which is crazy. Okay, so that was part one, is your mindset around selling needs to be solid, needs to go in with I'm leading with value, like giving, and then selling, and not being afraid to sell, okay? Because that's where people are going to get the most transformation. Okay, number two, clarify and simplify your offer. So this relates to like your messaging of your brand, your business, but also what, like the offer, things that you are selling. Make sure it is so clear who it's for, what it's about, what they can expect. Make the path to purchasing super clear. And essentially, one thing that instantly comes to mind here is thinking about, like, in really simple terms, can you explain to me, if we're looking at like one online course, like what is the outcome? What's the pain points they're experiencing now? What are the solutions that they desire? How are you going to help them get there? What's your way, right? And if you can answer those questions in very simple words, and we're talking like words that your audience actually uses, so it's going to require you to do some market research, study what they're saying, what phrases do they use, what words do they use, but also just not writing in a way that is above a third grade level for the most part, okay? Like I heard this term or this phrase the other day said, use $1 words, not $100 words. In other words, like use words people understand, not these big, crazy, sophisticated, professional words for whatever it is that you do. And you will win so much faster because people just get it. Like they understand it better, right? One other thing too that has come to mind for me recently is that the more you can simplify even your content, the way that you sell, your sales pages, your checkout pages, if you can communicate the same message and get your point across in half the words or as few words as possible, like give enough information where you can explain what you're trying to explain, but not over explain and be too lengthy, you're going to convert so much better as well. Like people will get it faster. They will understand what you're saying. It won't come across as wordy or lengthy. And when you're doing that in very simple words, it's so incredibly powerful. Like it's so powerful when someone can look at what's the thing that you're offering and very clearly see like this is exactly what I need, or understand like this is not for me, because you're so incredibly clear about that. And so one thing that's helped me a lot when I'm thinking about marketing my courses is doing the work of this first. And I actually do this before I even make a course. I will list out, and this comes from like surveying my audience, doing market research, and I will list out things like what are the major pain points that they are experiencing right now as it relates to this? What are the dreams, the solutions, the things they crave? What do they want instead? How am I going to close that gap? How am I going to get them there? And how can I explain that in a way that they're going to understand? And then that is what is going to drive the way I write my sales page, the way I write my emails, the way I write my checkout page, the content I make for this, the freebie I create that then leads to pitching this offer. That is so important. And being clear is always going to be more compelling than just trying to be clever where people don't really understand. And so I aim even to make how I name my courses, the content I create, like just making it so clear what it's about so people aren't confused, right? Part 3 here, use social media platforms as a way to generate leads for your business, not sell. So that's also what I was touching on earlier. With not feeling salesy, is when you start to look at like whether it's Instagram, YouTube marketing, whatever it is you use to market your brand or your business, when you see it as, okay, those platforms, like when people are coming on to Instagram, they're typically not in a shopping mindset. I mean, they can be. But typically when you come onto Instagram, you're coming on there to scroll, numb out, ignore what's on your to-do list, like whatever it is, right? So when you're in that mindset, it's a lot easier to generate leads from a platform like that. And to say, hey, here's something for free if you give me your email address in return, essentially. And it is going to vary from platform to platform. Like when I think about YouTube, a lot of times, people aren't necessarily numbing out, but they're sitting down to like enjoy something and watch something. And actually right now, streaming platforms are the biggest like competitor, if you will, for YouTube. Isn't that interesting? Because a lot of people are like watching YouTube as like their way of unwinding after the day, or deciding if they want to watch Netflix or YouTube or Disney Plus or whatever. Isn't that so interesting? So, okay, put it this way. You're going to be able to generate so many more leads. And based on typical conversion rates, say 1% of those even turn into sales. So every 100 leads you get from this platform, you'll get 1 sale. It's so much easier to generate 100 leads from a platform than to try to generate one sale directly from a platform. Like, you could post the same thing and have it go straight to your checkout page, but if you decide to generate those leads first and then lead into, it could be an immediate tripwire for your product. It could be a email sales funnel. It could be a free masterclass they watch. There are a lot of ways to do it, but doing it that way is going to lead to so many more conversions for your course or digital product than just saying, here's my course, here's where you buy it. And obviously you wouldn't say that, but the way you can spin it, like, and have so many more people opt in. And I found that by giving first and giving that value, leads them to trust me more than just trying to directly pitch and sell. And just the nature of these platforms, again, going back to that mindset of selling, it feels so much more genuine and organic and natural to simply generate leads than you can pitch to right then and there. Or now they're on your email list, which we'll talk about in a minute, then you can pitch to later when you run different campaigns and stuff. And that is truly so valuable. And when I think about, like, the one thing I'm so glad I've done in my brand over the past few years, I'm so glad I have my email list, because that has, even when I've had seasons of maternity, postpartum, just the ups and downs of life and things happening. Like, if there's a month where I can't film YouTube videos, you are able to leverage your email list and those people that you've spent so much time nurturing and build this really healthy community and really help to have this, like, foundation of your business where if everything else goes away with your marketing, you have this email list that you can start with, and those are your hottest leads and you're nurturing them. And so thinking about those outward platforms as like, that's for lead gen, is to get leads. It's different sources to bring leads onto your email list. Everything points to your email list. Your email list is then where you're going to sell. And so we'll talk about that here in a second, and what that looks like and how you can sell specifically for courses and digital products, and what I've seen work really, really well. But essentially, email is where they expect you. Like, think about when you get on an email list for any big brand or even any small brand, like any brand that you follow, you're expecting that's where they're going to tell you about sales, coupon codes, campaigns, new things happening, right? Like, you're expecting that. And we see that even with, like, conversion rates for your email list. Typically when you do a launch, anywhere from like 1% to 3% of people on your email list who are your hot leads are going to convert, right? There's just a strong correlation to your email list and what actually is happening with your sales. And in addition to, like, when I say leads, it's basically people opting into your email list and then you're pitching them, right? So when I am coaching any of my students, and this student in particular as well, one of the first things I'm wondering is, like, how big is your email list? What are your open rates like? What are your click-through rates like? And asking them those types of questions gives me a really good idea of how strong your brand is, essentially. How strong are your hottest leads to, like, within your email community? And ideally, you want to have a large community there with really great open rates, really great click-through rates, and you're consistently selling to them as well. So they're, like, used to that there, right? And it just makes so much sense. And so when you start to think about it that way, it starts to become so much easier. And I actually have a free, it's a free 10-day Instagram plan that has 10 ideas for your feed and 10 ideas for your stories. Specifically, the stories one are absolutely incredible for generating those leads from Instagram. Stories is where typically your hottest people are on your Instagram account from your followers. And that's where you can see really great conversion. So if you want that plan, start using those plug and play prompts, go in the description and download that freebie. I think you're really, really going to love it. And so in summary, we're looking at using social media platforms, marketing platforms to generate leads, right? And not necessarily to hard pitch and sell. And email marketing is where we are going to sell. So with that, let's talk about email marketing. So email marketing is essentially what you want to use as your sales engine, if you will. Like, essentially where you're going to be more directly pitching people. You're going to run your campaigns to. You're going to really lean into sending lots of emails. You're going to set up funnels so that people are pitched immediately after coming on your email list, right? And so things like social media, podcasts, YouTube, even if you do like podcast interviews, summits, bundles, whatever, those are generating leads for your business. And then your email list is where you sell. And so that's why, again, that's why we're mentioning like lead magnets, things for people to get on your email list within all of your free content. All roads point to this one thing, and that's your email list. Once they're on your list, okay, there are a few different ways that you can generate sales. And specifically when I'm thinking about this, and I'm actually in the midst of right now redoing my course, Inbox to Income, which is my in-depth course on how essentially how I execute on my email marketing strategy, specifically to sell courses and digital products. And just a little sneak peek, that course will actually, I'm trying to see what date this video is going live. That course will actually be on sale for Black Friday. So I'll put a link below to the Black Friday catalog. It should be out by now by the time this video is released. So I'm going to put a link to that below if you want to check it out, see what date it's going to be on sale. I do 5 days of daily deals for Black Friday. So like this course will be on sale for 1 day for 24 hours. So go get all the details down below. But essentially, the gist of my strategy and what this course all encompasses is like the live aspect of email marketing and the like funnel passive aspect of email marketing. And when we're thinking about the funnel aspect, essentially we're thinking about what are some funnels you can create, and that can be a tripwire. So like when someone downloads a free lead magnet, so it could be an ebook, a Google Doc, a template, a webinar, whatever it is. Actually, typically I don't do this with a webinar, but pretty much any other email opt-in, I'm doing something called a tripwire, okay? So what a tripwire is immediately after they download it, redirects them to a page that says, hey, like your freebie's on your way to your inbox. By the way, for the next 20 minutes or whatever you want to say there, I'm giving you 20%, $50 off my digital product. And it needs to directly relate to whatever the freebie is. So for example, it might not be set up yet, but that free 10-day Instagram plan, when you download that, in theory, it will go to a tripwire page for one of my Instagram products. So if I wanted to make it relate directly, it would be like a 90-day Instagram plan. So it's basically like upgrading their experience, right? Or it could be I'm working on a new mini course for Instagram stories called Stories Growth that is also going to be launching for Black Friday. So if you want to get the details on that, link will be below. But I could pitch that as like, hey, you have 10 story ideas. Now here's the entire strategy to keep going with stories forever and ever, right? And so essentially you want to have funnels like that set up. And this can also be like a really simple like 5-day email funnel for your product. It can be something like an evergreen webinar funnel. Mine are typically 4 days long. So when someone opts into one of my evergreen webinars, they have 4 days to watch the replay and get access to like a discount and a bonus they can apply to one of my popular online courses. That strategy has worked so well. I typically, with funnels like that, I stick to shorter, simpler funnels. I'm not really someone who, even when I've tried setting these up that are like 3 months long of an automated like weekly funnel, I just don't stick to it very long. And I love to pivot and add things in and talk about live campaigns more with my audience. So right now I don't have funnels that are longer than like 2 weeks long. 2 weeks is pretty much my max. Like for one of my courses, it's like a week of like nurture emails and then a week of pitch emails. But that's pretty much the longest type of funnel that I personally do. But that's kind of like the passive side of things. Now, there's also what I call the live side of things. And that is like, what are the live newsletters, if you will, that you are sending? And what are the live campaigns that you are hosting? So it's almost like this, it's almost like stacking. You've got 2 different ways you can attack it almost of these funnels in your live campaigns. And actually your live newsletters can feed people into those passive funnels. So for example, I just did this recently that did really well. Like the freebie was linked in an email, just a regular email newsletter. And I think it was just like, by the way, do you want to see a visual? Here's my evergreen content calendar download. You can grab it here. And it immediately pitched one of my products, okay? And so I had a few sales in 1 day just by doing that. having the newsletter, it led with value. It was a really valuable email, pitched the product, led them into being pitched my paid offer. And even if they don't buy right there, like that's another exposure for people to know about my offers and what I have. And that also feeds into my live campaigns, right? So if I run the offer on sale again or something or do a campaign for it, like it all works together. So the live part of it though is those weekly newsletters and live campaigns. And so I typically recommend, once you have a good sized email list and you're really wanting to leverage it, I recommend at least one email a week minimum. So you're sending, and this is again, leading with value. It can be sharing about new content you come out with, a behind the scenes, encouragement. It can be sharing a thought, sharing something thought-provoking, curiosity, or something that evokes curiosity that then leads them into a freebie, just like I was mentioning earlier I did, that then leads into your funnels, right? That can trigger a funnel. And so I'm doing that a lot with my live emails. I bumped it up to 2 emails a week for a long time. And then I'm running an experiment right now where I have it at 3 emails a week. I will get back to you on my thoughts on it when I'm done running the experiment. So far, it's been really good. I haven't had more people than not unsubscribe. And it's been a really great way to also like throw in more just like, even if they don't have a call to action, just some sort of like encouragement or something like telling a story or things like that, like more personal. So I'm really loving the 3 times a week right now. I usually do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's like been my cadence for the past month or so when I'm not doing a live campaign. So there's that part of things where you're sending live nurture emails. And this kind of goes along with like the give, and then ask, right? And then we've got the live campaign side of things, which this confused me for so long. And I always thought for the longest time, this might just be me, but I always thought like back when I was starting out with courses, I was like, oh, you like do a big live launch for your course. And then what? What do you do? How do you keep making sales? And then that's where really a lot of that question is answered by doing the funnels and doing like having your newsletters point people to those funnels and things like that, getting new leads that trigger those funnels. So then you have some of those evergreen sales coming in between your launches. But what I've realized is that there really is so much power in having live launch campaigns in your brand. And when you look at all of the big businesses, like you think about all of the big shopping brands, I mean, like where you buy clothes or like Target, or think about just like any brand, and you'll probably notice this now that I say it, notice like what brands are doing. And it's hard to find a brand that doesn't do live campaigns. I even think about like, I have this company that sells sheepskins. I know that's so like random, but like I am like obsessed with their sheepskins. I want so many of them. We have one, but I want so many more. Also, I'm actually wearing them right now. I have slippers from them. And like they'll run campaign, like a live campaign, maybe once every month or 2. Or like we started buying clothing from this wool clothing company that we really like because we're as a family, we're trying to get outside more and like be outside more. So for this fall and winter, we bought some wool clothes for our whole family. And so they usually run a live campaign like every couple months. So you really got to keep an eye out if you want to get anything on sale. But it's a really, really, really great way, another great way to move people into your offers. And this is actually when I was talking with my student that I'm like breaking all this down from, this is one of the first things I recommended for her. Because if you've never done like a proper live launch campaign for your course, start there, especially if you're in a place where you need a good cash injection into your business to kind of keep things moving forward so then you can work on other things like these funnels and stuff. Start with a live launch campaign, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Typically my live launches now are maybe like the week of, I'll post one time on Instagram about it. The week before, I'm sharing some of my freebies that relate to the topic so that it's kind of priming people for me to launch that thing. And then the week of, I'll email people at least once every day. Typically on the last day, I'm sending 2 or 3 emails. That's pretty much the gist of it. And then if I want to throw in, sometimes I'll do warm Facebook ads to my warm audience that are really simple. And it doesn't need to feel like this complicated, has a billion different things going on. I keep it pretty simple, and I focus more in the runway leading up to it. If it's like a new offer for a couple of weeks, like at least, I'm basically priming my audience, which is saying like, hey, like here's a free thing on this, or here's an email that's thought-provoking about this, or here's a free YouTube video about this topic. And it all relates to whatever that course or product is that I'm going to be launching. So it just makes sense when I launch it. People are like, oh my goodness, she's been talking about this for like a whole month now. And now I'm like so invested in this and now I want to buy it, right? So that's the idea. And live launch campaigns are so incredibly powerful. Again, you'll be hard pressed to find a business that doesn't do a lot of live launch campaigns. And a live launch campaign it could be a launch, it could be a campaign, it could be, you can call it whatever you want, a sale, whatever. Essentially, it's things like you can run a discount, you can bundle items together, you can throw in a bonus if they join during a certain week. Typically, a lot of mine are discounts. I found that works really, really well. And if it's the first time I'm launching something, I usually also throw in a bonus for my audience. It's just like an extra thank you for joining during the first time that I am launching that product. And so essentially you are getting people, again, to kind of recap, we have this live component that's weekly live emails. We have the live launch campaigns. Typically, I recommend at least one per quarter, but I'm even at the point where I typically am doing one like once a month-ish, and some of them are, like I did one recently that was a collaborative campaign where we did like a live webinar and then a big live launch the next week. That did take a better chunk of my time, but then I've done ones where it's literally like, hey, I'm putting this product on sale for 48 hours. That's the campaign for the month, okay? So it doesn't need to be complicated, and then you can start repurposing and reusing even like stuff you've used for past launches for that product when you're like relaunching it again. And then there's that passive side, right? So that's where we're consistently sharing and getting leads from our organic marketing platforms or paid marketing platforms. And we are then pitching them offers via our email list, which by the way, I do have it's a free Google Doc with 10 different ideas for freebies. So if you want that, I'll put a link in the description. That can be really helpful in just like brainstorming what people actually want to give you their email for to growing your email list. So that's how the email marketing side of this works. Now, the fifth thing here is to run simple launches. And I already kind of touched on this and mentioned this, but think of it like you're basically making a big deal about something for 1 week. And again, I recommend at least one per quarter. You can find whatever cadence works for you. Like I mentioned, some are like more time intensive than others, but I typically will do, like flash sales, add bonuses, whenever I'm live launching something. And this is just personal preference. You can obviously find what works for you, but I love doing like having my launches start on a Monday, end that following Friday. So it's like a 5-day time period. Sometimes I'll even do like early bird bonuses, like for the first 24 hours, just to like incentivize people to jump in faster. And so that's really what that's looking like. And that could be for a new product that I'm creating, or it can be for an existing offer that I have to just like keep sales flowing, to keep offering things to my engaged email list of buyers. And I actually also, lots of freebies for you. I have another free doc that is a list of things that every launch needs, like basically like the timeline and the checklist of like all the things for launch to help it be super successful. So if you want that free doc as well, I'll put a link down in the description. Okay, and then we already talked about this in number 4, but number 6 here, because I do want to mention a few more things about it, is building those funnels. So basically the steps that I gave my student was starting with, let's have people on your email list, create a freebie or share your freebie for a week or two, get as many people onto your email list as you can, do a launch for 5 days for your online course, have some sort of incentive like discount. I typically recommend at least 20%, if not more. And then once you've got that going, build your first funnel. And you can build that based off of your launch that you just did, whether it's a tripwire. So if it's $200 or less, I typically will do some sort of tripwire, which means like I mentioned, like when someone downloads a freebie, they're immediately getting pitched your offer. So it can be as simple as taking that sales page you made for your launch, adding a little blurb at the top about mentioning the freebie and that there's an offer they're going to love. If they want to dive in deeper, give them a discount again on that. That becomes your tripwire, okay? So that can be a really simple funnel you can set up to start with. It could be a 5-day email sales funnel. So take those 5 days of emails, tweak them a little bit so they make sense no matter when someone's signing up. And you're essentially pitching them that offer for 5 days, right? And giving that same discount that you would have gave during the launch. And then your focus, so when you have a funnel like that set up, especially when you start to realize that it's converting well, then your focus becomes, how can I fill the top of my funnel with as many leads as possible? So then, like, if once you know, okay, I get 500 leads into this funnel every single month, and let's say 3% convert. I actually cannot do the math on that off the top of my head, so I'm going to do the math. So that would be 15 buyers. So let's say you have a course that's priced at $297. That's $4,500 per month that you can pretty much bank on, right? Once you have that consistent flow coming in, you're like, okay, on average, like if I do nothing else, like I have these amount of leads coming in, about this amount of money I'm gonna make. And probably ideally, I have videos on my YouTube channel about this, and I'll link one below about my upsell strategy and how to like blow up your average cart value with upsells, downsells, order bumps. I'll put a link in the description for that YouTube video, because this number is really going to be a lot higher if you are doing that. Typically, I'm seeing like 30% higher. So what would be 30%? It would be closer to like $5,800 in sales when you're adding in the upsells and downsells and stuff. So this is a really great way, especially if you have a business model where you don't have that recurring revenue coming in from like a membership, a group coaching program, one-on-one clients. Like I am someone who I am so focused on growing my business as it relates to course and digital product sales. And so the way you can have predictability with that is, number one, having lead gen from different sources and having a certain amount of leads, like new people getting on your email list, going into your funnels. That's going to happen every single month. And that gives you kind of a baseline idea of like what your revenue might look like every single month, right? And it might be up or down some months, but typically that's what you're looking for first. And then second, cross-selling and upselling and downselling and all of that is going to be so powerful for increasing the amount of sales. Like when someone buys from you once, it's so much easier for them to buy again. It's a lot easier to get a current customer to buy again than to acquire a new one. And so when you have a business model, if it's similar to mine, or if you're thinking about doing this, like that's something you want to think about from the very beginning is, how can I move people in through more of my offers that I have, because you don't have that recurring aspect already built into the type of business that you are building. Okay, so I wanted to give you a list of practical steps you can take and kind of like just recap a practical list that you can take and run with. So the first step would be to choose that one course, one offer, one digital product to essentially make a big deal about for a week and do a sale on it, do a good launch for it, okay? And then you're gonna start consistently promoting freebies. And then you're going to create your first funnel from that. So take what you did for that, create your first really simple funnel. So choose one type and create one. Start consistently sharing freebies, ideally ones that relate to and will trigger that funnel to like your organic content. So whether you have a podcast, YouTube channel, Instagram, whatever it is, and that will funnel people into your list, into your funnels. And then even if they don't buy then, get them on your list so you can pitch to them later in your live campaigns, right? Then we're gonna be sending weekly newsletters to them, at least one time per week, planning out those quarterly launches, doing at least one live campaign per quarter, more if you feel like you can do it. And that is all of this in a nutshell. So I think that ended up being a good 45 minutes if I don't end up cutting some of this. But thank you for sticking around. I hope that was really helpful to give you an overview, a really great idea of like, if you want to start this type of business and start marketing, and like what the marketing and sales aspect looks like for digital products. That's what this breakdown is. And so, yeah, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions about anything that I talked about in here, drop a comment below. I'm a completely open book. I'm happy to answer any questions, or even if there's a topic you want me to like go deeper into in an upcoming YouTube video, or maybe I can point you to a video that I have already created, let me know in the comments and I'm happy to let you know. Or if you're listening to this on the podcast or YouTube even, you're welcome to DM me on Instagram at Stephanie Lynn Case and ask any questions that you have. So I'll see you guys again next week on Tuesday with a new one, and can't wait to talk more then. Bye guys.